Breaking moments ago, MS Now's Carol Lennig and Ken Delanian are reporting that the FBI has just fired at least 7 FBI agents and support staff as a result of their role in the classified documents case. This is involving records Donald Trump kept at his club at Mar-a-Lago. Now, that is according to 3 people familiar with the matter. An FBI spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the terminations. Well, MS Now's senior investigative correspondent Carol Lennig, who just broke that story, joins us. Also with us is Christina Greer, associate professor of political science at Fordham University. She's the author of How to Build a Democracy, From Fannie Lou Hamer and Barbara Jordan to Stacey Abrams.
Carol, please talk us through your reporting and which questions still remain.
Well, Alicia, I thought we were done with FBI agents being fired en masse, but tonight we got a tip that, and it wasn't that hard to confirm, that multiple agents and some support staff, at least 7 agents, were fired in relationship to their role in the Mar-a-Lago, what's known as the Mar-a-Lago documents case. You'll remember the FBI opened an investigation after determining there was probable cause to believe that Donald Trump had top secret classified records at his club when he was no longer president after he had left the office in January of 2021. These individuals were fired, we are told by sources, were fired because they played some role in seeking investigative materials and specifically phone records, metadata about the phone calls of Kash Patel, who is now the FBI director, and Susie Wiles, who is now the chief of staff for the White House. The choice of these firings now is interesting because the FBI director fired, or his predecessor fired, many FBI agents immediately after Donald Trump's inauguration. So the question arises, why now are these individuals considered suspect or unprofessional or violating their oath of office?
How does this play out then? I mean, what is it, because there's some concern about looking at the metadata related to Susie Wiles and Kash Patel at that time? Help us understand what the thing is that relates to the firing of these individuals.
Great question, Michael. And I know a thing or two about how Kash Patel and Susie Wiles were both being examined in this investigation back in the day when it started in February of 2022. The documents case took a lot of twists and turns during the Biden administration. But one of the things that the FBI was looking into was that Kash Patel made the claim famously in the summer, I believe it was May of 2022, that he had personally seen Donald Trump, when he was president, declassify a whole host of records. And the FBI was trying to figure out, was that a bogus claim, or was there any veracity to it? With regard to Susie Wiles, she was very prominently the head of Donald Trump's Political Action Committee when he was considering running for office again. And there was a tip the FBI was hunting down at the time of this classified documents probe when Trump was out of office and Biden was in office. The tip was that Donald Trump had been on a private plane with Susie Wiles and had shown her a classified document, which would be illegal to both have a highly classified document and show it to someone who did not have clearance to review it. So these are 2 potential reasons. We don't know yet, Michael. Mm-hmm. All we know is that these people have been fired. And one more detail, they were fired the same day or within 24 hours of a story breaking that revealed that Patel and Wiles' phone records had been obtained. Just the metadata of who they called, when they called them, nothing about the content.
Kash Patel is obviously out right now, folks. He has a statement to Reuters noting, "It is outrageous and deeply alarming that the previous FBI leadership secretly subpoenaed my own phone records, along with those of now White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, using flimsy pretexts and burying the entire process in prohibited case files designed to evade all oversight. That is how Director Patel is responding to this news. We will stay on it. Look, there's something that Carol said, Christina, about the fact that Kash Patel years ago at this point said that he saw Donald Trump declassify these files. I used to work at the White House. You don't see the president declassify something. There's a process that it goes through. That being said, I do think there's something about the fact that there seems to be, if you're just a regular person sitting at home, turning on the TV, like, well, what did Kash Patel do now? It seems that there's so much chaos, so many things happening, yet no accountability in any way, shape, or form. Kash Patel's name is in the news a lot. Yet we haven't heard from Kash Patel. He wasn't at the State of the Union last night. He's putting out statements to Reuters, and I believe has been on some conservative media, but he has yet to come before the American people, before Congress, and answer questions. I'm sure Carol Linick has a call in and has yet to hear from him.
Well, first things first, fantastic reporting by Carol and Ken. The way I see this as a political scientist and also as an American is that this is just part of the larger distraction tactic. When we're thinking about this mass firing, and you ask, why today, right? What we're not talking about is Kash Patel chugging a beer overseas on our dime. What we're not talking about is the Epstein debacle and missing files from supposed declassified files for Donald Trump, right? With people who have said that they knew him and saw him and all the things.
And I will note, Reuters even said they couldn't independently verify Kash Patel's claims that he gave to them in their statement.
Exactly. So all of the facts that we should be discussing, we're not talking about a disastrous State of the Union where the president just sort of skips over the fact that many Americans don't see cheaper prices for gas, for eggs, for home buying, how he said that we should pay more for your house, right? We're not talking about a State of the Union where it's the longest in history and he's unraveled and unhinged.
Hey guys, am I free to go?
Absolutely disrespectful to a whole entire political party. What we are talking about is this sort of shocker of a mass firing. So it's this constant distraction with this administration that we've seen for the past year, where whenever we should be dissecting something that is in the moment, is incredibly important, they throw something else there. So now we can't talk about last night, which was incredibly important for the future of our democracy, where it's like, oh, I'll make a deal with Iran. Really? I think that we should actually spend more than 6 minutes talking about winning in hockey and maybe what this means for us internationally and domestically, fiscally, and also for our personal safety. But no, we can't even discuss that because now we have these mass firings that are coming on the heels of something that happened years ago that in of itself is incredibly important to discuss. So the exhaustion of it all, as Alicia sort of has laid out, is that the point of this administration is to keep us on our back heels constantly so we can't see what is in front of us. And I think a lot of people want a little more clarity on these Epstein files. I think a lot of people want a little more clarity on what the future of our nation looks like financially. I think a lot of people want a little more clarity about what the president did, not just during his first term, but in those 4 years when he was not in office. I think a lot of people want a little more clarity about, these false claims that he made all last night about election security, about how well we're doing as an economy. The list goes on and on. And now we have to talk about 7 people and their staff being fired.
Unfortunately for the president, we have walked and chewed gum at the same time. We're doing it all.
And it's why, Carol, I want you to just level set for us and remind us what things look like in normal times. Let's say there was a political vendetta inside a Department of Justice. These agents just get assigned to cases. Like these, of all the folks to hold responsible, holding the agents responsible, it doesn't even really make sense.
I have to agree, just based on reporting experience about the FBI and the Department of Justice, and specifically about this investigation that's allegedly at the core of why these individuals were fired. It didn't make sense when a host of DOJ employees who oversaw and were the premier experts on counterterrorism were fired, other than they played a role in investigations of Donald Trump, either on election interference or the classified documents case. And you're so right about FBI agents specifically because they are assigned by their supervisors to take these cases. It's not like they're jumping up and down and saying what they want to do and what they want to investigate. On top of that, toll records are really the most basic kind of record record that the FBI obtains on the regular in any investigation to basically determine who was calling who are they in contact with, who's their circle. If you're looking into someone who puts up their hand and says, I saw the president declassify all these records, this investigation is a waste of time. Or if you have a lead that a top political ally of the president's saw classified records and was shown them by a former president. I'm going to underline one thing Christina said, if I may. I really appreciated what she said about the reporting, but also about keeping us on our back heels. I'm a reporter. I just try to get the facts, but the facts here are a little odd. The timing of this firing comes after Kash Patel, we are told, was in a little bit of hot water with the White House. Because while Donald Trump doesn't really have any big concern about Patel maybe flying around on the jet one or two more times than he maybe can arguably say was a business trip, he does not like drunkenness and heavy duty drinking, and that's an allergic reaction that he has to that. We heard from the administration that Patel was in a bit of trouble. So it's really interesting that now the White House Chief of Staff, who makes all the decisions about personnel ultimately, she's the final